here are the notes that I was supposed to give you yesterday on Cnidarians 12-3. Cnidarians, you don't say the C in the front. Cnidarians are what we typically think of when we think of jellyfish and sea anemone. And so as you can see, they come in two different types of body forms, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Alright, as we know, this is all in the kingdom Animalia, but now the phylum is Cnidaria. So if I just take off the N and the S, that right there is the phylum for these guys. What do we find in this phylum? We have jellyfish, hydras, sea anemones, and coral. Oh, there's a phylum right there. Phylum Cnidaria. There are four main classes that we're going to refer to. One is called Scyphozoa, and that is the jellyfish, or what we typically think of with a jellyfish. Looks something like that. Then we have Hydrazoa, which are the little, well, not like that. Hydras are kind of what we looked at today in the packet, kind of look like that. Anthozoa are sea anemones, are kind of like Hydra, but much bigger and fatter, like that. And then we have Cubozoa, which looks like a Scyphozoa, but he's got more of a box shape to him, and really long, actually, long tentacles, and very, very dangerous and deadly. Okay, so let's go see what they do. So what is a Cnidarian? They are soft-bodied, carnivorous animals, so every single one eats other animals, and they have stinging tentacles that are arranged in circles around their mouths. Whether they are face down or face up, the mouth here in the middle always has tentacles around them. They have radial symmetry, which means that they can be cut in half anyway and still have equal left and right halves, and they have specialized tissues, specifically 2 layers of tissue. The name Cnidaria comes from the fact that they have specialized cells called cnidocytes, or stinging cells. So the cyte part means cell, the cnido means stinging. Inside of the cnidocytes, they have specialized structures called nematocysts, and these guys are little dart structures that are filled with poison and spikes on them, so that way when they get in you, they don't let go, and they can paralyze their prey, they can sting you, burn you, or just feel kind of sticky depending on how bad their poison is. Here is a picture of a nematocyst, which is the cell like this. Usually there's a trigger sticking out, and when we touch the trigger, this little trap door opens, and this guy just pops right out. And he kind of everts himself, or turns himself inside out. So when he's tucked in, he's inside out, but then as he comes out, he unfolds, kind of like turning a sock the right way, and then he ends up coming out, and all this little spiral stuff in here gets jabbed inside of the prey, and the poison that was in here slowly works its way out and into the whatever thing he decided to sting. You can see there's little barbs that stick backwards on here, and what they do is prevent them from coming out of the prey item, and then eventually it'll sever right about here and they'll be stuck into the prey item. Here's a micrograph showing one. We can see this is the cell and the little flap right there, and we can see the little spiral inside of the cnidocyte, and then when it is triggered, the cell compresses or squeezes and it shoots out, and you can see it going all along here, but you can still see the part that hasn't come out yet. Okay, now the body plan. Like we said, they are radially symmetrical, so they're always round. They have a central mouth, so mouth in the middle with many, many tentacles. Their life cycle is 2 different stages. We have the polyp stage and the medusa stage. The polyp stage is the mouth up phase, like this, and the medusa is the mouth down stage. So it's not a type of animal, but it just refers to the form that their body is in. Just like a butterfly has a larva stage and an adult stage. So they have 2 different stages. Polyps are cylindrical, and they have little arm-like tentacles sticking up, and they're sessile, which means they usually don't move. They're pretty much stuck where they are. Hydra are the exception in the fact that they can do little cartwheels to get around wherever they need to. Then we have a medusa, which is motile, means that it can swim around, move around, and his mouth is downwards facing. So here is the polyp form. This is a hydra, and his mouth is right here. And you can see all the little tentacles. They kind of look like grains of salt on his tentacles. Those are all the stinging cells. Here's the base right here where he would glue himself down. And inside is his gastrovascular cavity where he does all of his digestion. Here's the medusa form. You can see the bell, or the main portion of his body, and all the tentacles. Jellyfish usually have two different types of tentacles. They have feeding tentacles, which are the skinny ones and longer, and these squiggly ones, which are reproductive tentacles, which usually help in the mating process. Okay, their body plan. The body wall surrounds an internal gastrovascular cavity. So when we look inside, there's a little space where the food goes. So when they swallow something, it goes in through the mouth right here, and then it hangs out in here for a while, which is kind of cool because since they're see-through, you can watch their food get digested. Awesome. Then, once the food is in there, the gastrodermis, it will release chemicals to digest the food. So on the inside of the gastrovascular cavity, we have the gastrodermis, which is also referred to as the endoderm, endo inside, gastro stomach. So the endodermis and the gastrodermis are basically the same. Then we have the epidermis, which is on the outside, and so that's all the stuff here, this outer layer just like this. So epi means on the outside or on top of. Then in between, we've got the little jelly filling right in here called the mesoglia, and that basically holds the two layers together. So not a whole lot to the body structure of a jellyfish. Here is, ooh, it didn't come out nice. Here is a jellyfish showing, let me get a different color, showing the main structures. So here's the epidermis in here. Gastrovascular cavity is this weird looking thing right here. And the mouth is right there. Tentacles down here, so the food will come up, hang outside of here until it's digested, and then get squirted back out the same hole. Here is the polyp form, basically the same thing. Here's the body here, the mouth here, all the tentacles hanging out. The food will go in, be digested in there, and pop out the top. For feeding, since they are all carnivores, what they do is they use their nematocysts and cnidocytes to paralyze their prey, and then use their little tentacles to pull it into their gastrovascular cavity, which is the equivalent of a gut, your stomach. Food enters and waste leaves through the same opening, so mouth equals butt. And whatever food is digested gets absorbed by the gastroderm or gastrodermis, and then gets absorbed into the mesoglia, where it then feeds all the rest of the cells. Here's an interesting picture here showing that jellyfish and plastic bags don't look very different from each other, which is why sea turtles usually die from eating the trash in the ocean, because sea turtles love to eat jellyfish. As for respiration, circulation, and excretion, since they are relatively thin-walled, most of the materials can just go in and out of their body through diffusion. So the nutrients, once they're inside, they just diffuse into their body cavity. Cellular waste diffuses out of them. Respiration, so oxygen and CO2, just diffuse in and out. So the bigger they are, they have to work a little bit harder, so they have to stay in areas with high levels of oxygen in the water. Yes, that one is real. Yes, he's really that big. As for response, Cnidarians have a nerve net. What it is like, if here's a jellyfish, they have what looks like a net covering their body like this, and these are kind of like neurons, what our brain is made out of, and it allows them to pick up some basic information. So if you touch one, they can pull away from you and respond to that. They also have around the outside, and they're, let me draw that a little different. So they're around the bottom of the bell is called a statocyst. So cyst kind of refers to cell again. Stato refers to gravity. And what it is, it's a round, hollow cavity that has cells in it, and there's a little bitty rocks inside. Actually, you can see it better down here. There's a little bitty rocks inside. Well, not rocks, but they're like little rocks. And what happens is there's cells which have cilia sticking out, and when the jellyfish is right side up, then these little hairs get stimulated, telling the jellyfish he's right side up. But what happens if the jellyfish turns upside down? Well, then the rocks are going to end up over on this side and stimulate these cells. And then that's going to tell the jellyfish, hey, you're upside down. So the main thing that statocysts do is allow them to detect gravity. Then they have something called ocelli. Ocelli are just little spots that pick up light. They can't see things, but they can see light and dark. So they can go up where the light is if they want to get food, or down where it's dark to avoid being food. Oh no, what happened there? Why? Okay, that was weird. All right, as for movement, they move by what's called a hydrostatic skeleton. Basically, it just means a fluid-filled body. They also have some circular muscles that go around the body here, and they have longitudinal muscles that kind of go out like this, kind of like the latitude and longitude lines on the globe, like that. And so what they do is they alternate contracting the circular and the longitudinal ones, and that causes his body to change shape, which then causes him to propel himself in the water. Also, they can suck in water and then squirt it out, kind of like a squid or an octopus, and that can also cause him to move. For reproduction, they can do two ways. They can reproduce asexually and sexually. Polyps, the polyp forms usually reproduce by budding. So we got a hydra, like that. Ooh, that's really bad drawing. And if he wants to make some more hydra, well, just grow a baby out your side, then it falls off, and ta-da, there's your child. They do have external fertilization, which means that the eggs and the sperm will meet outside of the body. So a jellyfish, boy jellyfish, will release a sperm, a girl jellyfish will release an egg, and then hopefully they find each other, they turn into a zygote. The zygote will then turn into a free-swimming larva, which you guys saw today is called a planula. Planula. And that swims around for a little while until it finds a happy place on the bottom of the ocean to stick itself, and then the polyp can grow into a full-sized adult. Now the polyp, though, the polyp's kind of crazy. It can actually release medusa. So here is the life cycle. So here is a jellyfish in the medusa stage. There's his gonads, so testes and ovaries. So they release, one of them will release an egg, the other will release sperm. That'll turn into a planula, which is a ciliated larva, swims around. Then he turns into a little polyp. That polyp begins to grow and turns into a colony made out of little tubes and little buds. These buds inside come in two varieties. We have the feeding type and the reproductive type. So the feeding type, you can tell because they have tentacles that are able to catch food, and then the food goes in here and feeds everybody else. But this one, they actually make babies, so or not babies, they make the medusa form. So these are little jellyfish factories, and then whatever one's at top, once it gets big enough, he pops out, grows up, and becomes a grown-up jellyfish and starts the cycle all over again. Exciting. Fun facts about jellyfish. The most dangerous types of jellyfish are the box jellyfish or the sea wasp, which are in that group Cubozoa. A group of jellyfish is called a smack of jellyfish. That's cool. And a jellyfish is mostly 95% water. And that's it. So, sorry these were a day late. I'm sure you didn't mind too much. Bye-bye.